After setting up the project structure, we are going to start with the storyboard. Let's go back and take a look on our current design. As you can see in this design, we'll be doing the main application first. The main application can be separated into three main parts. The upper one, which is player control with some of the control elements in it. The bottom part will be having the left side as the songs, all songs selection, and also the playlist. The right side would be a table of songs with several columns showing the information about the song. We are going to use a split wheel first, top and bottom, and then within the bottom, we split it into left and right. For each of the area, we will then drag the controls into the view and set up the corresponding data. So let's start with it in the storyboard. Here we have the default storyboard with the wheel controller. I'm going to drag a split wheel into it. So search will be having the horizontal one first for the top and bottom. In this case, we don't need the default wheel controller. We can just delete it because we can use the split wheel as the content of the window. Go to the window controller, drag it from here to the split wheel. It will show as the window content like this. Drag down a little bit to give more spaces, and then possibly in the split wheel I could adjust a little bit on the height, but not here yet. We can adjust it through the view here. I am basically setting the height randomly at the moment. And then in terms of the wheel controller here, I'm going to change the name so that it's easier to recognize. This, let me just call it player control. And then the bottom part, I will change it as songs. And at the very beginning, I would just put a label inside the wheel showing the same information. Just make it easier to recognize. I could set up the auto layout for it as well. Just set it to the middle. Then for the bottom part, we will have another split wheel, which is a vertical one. Write it out like this. Again, we don't need this original wheel controller. We can just delete it. And then from the earlier split wheel, the vertical one, we could drag it to this split wheel and say as split items. At the moment, if I go back to this wheel controller and go to the connection part, you could see split items have two items in it, which is stored as an array programmatically. And the top one will be a node first, and then the other. I'm going to rename this as well. Call it songs. Right. And then now I have the left side, which should be for the playlist. And I suppose the first one is the upper one is the first one, which is on the left side. Let's rename it first with playlist. And then here we can rename it with song list. Again, I'm going to put some label in it. Perhaps this one I don't need that wide. I could adjust it to say 200. And then give the auto layout to the label here. I will put song list, which is actually the main content of the table of the songs. In order to make it more clear, as our playlist is on the left side, I want this wheel controller to be showing here, which is more intuitive and more clear, and then have the other wheel controller on the right. Now I can try to run the application and see whether those labels are showing up. Since I have added some cocoapods libraries, the first time I run the application, we need to compile all the pods as well. And right now I have only the real Swift library, so it will be compiling. The next time I compile again, the library have its frameworks available already, so they won't compile again. This makes the our application compiles faster. So it's also good to separate your own application into modules and then put it into CocoaPods. Now the application is run, but as you can see, the window is like this without any size. If I drag it over, it will actually show some of the information. If I drag it here as well, the player control is actually there as well. Just that I didn't set any constraint to the view, so it won't appear appropriately. In fact, I can do a little bit on this by going to, say, the view here and set a height constraint, or maybe, let's see, for now, I could just set it with the top and bottom constraint, so it must have the space. This one as well. This is really just temporary, and we will remove these labels anyway later on. And this one, perhaps I could set it with width and height. Run it again. Now, as you can see, it is running, compiling a lot faster. I need to set the top and bottom constraints as well. Again, this is really temporary, but at least for now, I have the 3 areas coming up by default. I could adjust the little detail later on, but at least I know I could start putting the elements into each of the area. Before going on, this project may have some other developers to work together, and the storyboard, as you can see, is becoming bigger and bigger. If 2 developers work on the same storyboard and make changes to it, the version control will have conflict. So I want to decouple the big storyboard into a smaller one, and then just talk to the team that when I'm working on part of the layout, I just modify one of the storyboards. How could I do that? One quick way is to have some of the storyboard components being stored into another storyboard file. Say for example, now I want to have the bottom part, the songs part here, to store in another storyboard. To do that, first I select the corresponding storyboard, like these three view controllers, and then I could go to editor, and then use refactor to storyboard. Now it will ask me to create a storyboard file. I will just store the file next to our current main storyboard and call it as song.storyboard. Save it. So what happened? One, song.storyboard file is created, and if I navigate inside this song.storyboard, the three selected wheel controllers appear. And here, as you can see, the arrow appears in this wheel controller, which means it is currently the initial controller of this storyboard file. The other thing happened is that when I look at main.storyboard again, this becomes a reference. What it does is when it is loading the bottom part of this split wheel, it goes to the song.storyboard file to grab the information and then attach to this part. The benefit, as I mentioned, now if my peer is modifying the song.storyboard and I'm working on main.storyboard, these are actually different files, so my changes won't conflict with his changes. This is a really good strategy in decoupling storyboard. You can consider in using it heavily. Now if I run the application again, it should actually have the same result. By the way, we have created the folder structure. Say for the views, we have the views folder, and both storyboard are about the views. I'm going to drag these into the views group, so it now conforms to our folder structure. Let's start today, and tomorrow we'll be adding the controls into our current storyboard structure. Talk to you tomorrow.